Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, a Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. But disregard the Part 1, because it's no longer a Part 1. The reason why it's on there is because these figures were supposed to come out last year. And when I say supposed to, I guess, I don't know, the box says street date April 10th. 2023, so whether they got to change it in time because the movie got delayed, in advance or whatever the case may be. But at the time that this figure was developed, it was Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. We now know that this movie is just called Across the Spider-Verse, and the next installment will be Beyond the Spider-Verse. So there is that. So like I said, April 10th, that is the date that these will go on sale. They will go on sale everywhere. ToySnowman.com, Entertainment Earth, Amazon, Big Bad, Hasbro Pulse, all of those. So you'll be able to get you'll be able to order them wherever you like to order figures but right now Walmart has started to get them, and I think that's it. So Walmart, of course, people started finding them before the figures were even officially announced and everything like that, and then finally they were officially announced. And now I get to share with you guys because I've had them. I actually got them the day that the figures got announced. So here we have them, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So I'm going to go ahead and review all of these figures. It's kind of weird because now we get this retro style packaging, but it's not really retro style. But it's not plastic free, so this is a way for plastic to happen with figures, I guess, kind of. We don't really know what's going on. The next Spider-Man wave is going to be like this with a new card back also, so why is it that we're getting it? I don't know. I can't complain. What sucks, though, is there's no Build-A-Figure. Like, with these packages of figures, we don't get a Build-A-Figure, and that sucks. I like Build-A-Figures. I don't know what figure would have made sense for a Build-A-Figure. I know this Deluxe Cyborg Spider-Woman that I do have, that I should have soon. That figure is pretty large, and I think probably too big to have been a Build-A-Figure. But, it sucks either way. But anyway, we get into it. We got Miles here. We got Spider-Man 2099. We got Gwen Stacy up there, Across Spider-Verse Part 1. We get a Miles Morales spider logo there. You can see we get extra hands, so we actually have 2 whip hands instead of just one like they seem to be doing with a bunch of other spider figures. Whatever the hell Hasbro's doing and thinking, I don't really know. Here we have the whole wave. So we got Miles Morales, we got Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man 2099, Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, Spider-Punk the Spot, and Peter B. Parker Spider-Man. And then here we have a look at Miles Morales that is unmasked. So there we go. I collect 2 of every retro figure. So I have one that I hang on the wall and then one that I open up. I think with these guys, because it's not a true retro, I have no problem not getting a second one of these. But I say that now, but if I were to find on clearance for a good price or something, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and make a dumb decision, I'm sure. But we'll see. This is not the first Miles Morales figure for Spider-Verse that we've gotten. We technically have 2 others. This was a weak-ass attempt at the time in a Target exclusive 2-pack. And then here was a much better one, not perfect head sculpt. As you can see, this one is so much better. But we did get something. We didn't get, Miles Morales in the full-on spider suit, which would have been really cool. But we have it now. But the suit is much different compared to the first movie. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to rip this thing open off camera, and we'll take a look at the Miles Morales figure. Alright, so here we have the Miles Morales figure out of the package. I'm not gonna lie, this thing's weird. The whole wave is weird because they are super stylized. One thing with Marvel Legends is that we are not used to stylized figures. I think we need to start getting used to it because this whole wave is going to be stylized to actually look like how the characters look in the movie. The Into the Spider-Verse wave, they started to do that, and then the Marvel Legends or the Disney Plus series What If, the MCU stuff, those are a bit stylized as well. So I think, we're going to have to kind of get used to that a little bit. Even Dwight Stahl has said in the past in like an interview or something that, Marvel Legends figures are not usually artist specific because they want to fit a kind of general look to where the figures all kind of match to each other. And that's kind of like with this Miles Morales figure, right? This was just a repaint. It was based on the Ultimate Spider-Man teenage body that they had done. So that kind of fit the mold there to just kind of be a generic, they all conform to the same style, the same look, the same proportions, the same scale-ish, because Hasbro's not great with scale. But these new ones, man, they're just super stylized. And with that, just comes, having to get used to a different style of action figure. This thing is super thin, super thin, like crazy thin. It doesn't really feel flimsy, but man, it is thin, like crazy thin. But there's some really cool stuff on here. Like, it's super textured in the sculpt and everything like that. So we're going to get in for a closer look, and then we'll swap out, you know, the head sculpt, the unmasked head sculpt, which I think is like fantastic compared to this one where it looked like Miles, but it looked like a baby version of Miles. I'll see if we could switch them. The heads are different though. Well, I'll have to see. But yeah, let's get in for a closer look at this Miles Morales Spider-Man figure so you can see all the really cool sculpted textured detail in it. Okay, so here is the closer look at the head sculpt, and you can see there, it is really good. Now, one thing I find weird, and why do they do this with the Miles Morales figures? It reminds me of the Gamerverse Spider-Man. There's the neckline in there. Like, why do that? I don't understand the need to put that neckline in there. I think it's ugly, and it's distracting for me. That's a minor gripe compared. But it's just weird that we've seen it only on Miles Morales figures, like why they do that. But yeah, look at the sculpted texture like of his suit, the hair on his chest, looking at his head. We get kind of that tufted, padded look to it, and that's kind of throughout the figure as well. One thing that's odd though is we get blue here in the upper arm, but we do not get it in the lower arm. I don't know if that's a design choice or if the blue is supposed to be like a cell shade, or just for whatever reason in the movie the upper arm is blue, lower arm is black. But even here on the leg, like you still get that sculpted, tufted look just below the knee, but it's black. Here on the thigh, it's blue, but then on the hip piece, it is black. Here, it's black as well. I don't know if that's just the back of the figure. They don't bother painting because Hasbro does that, you know, a lot. It's just kind of a weird design choice from that standpoint as well. But look at the texture detail throughout. Just looks really good. And again, this thing is super thin. Like, oh my god, it's thin. But just crazy details. I love the texture of the suit. Just looks really good. And look at that spider logo on there. Doesn't that just look badass? I think it looks awesome. And then here we kind of get, it almost has the spray paint look from the first one. Not quite. It definitely has a much cleaner look, as you can see kind of the difference between the two. But yeah, and just look, man, the size difference, right? You'd think that the teenage body, man, that was small, but holy moly, looking at this guy. But I mean, even like the first one, you could see that it was just super thin proportions, you know, on that guy also. But then he had like the thick arms because of the jacket and stuff like that. So, you know, it is very different. But looking at height-wise, it's not too bad. I don't know what kind of time difference between the first movie and the second movie it is. I want to say it's a short, it's not much, but, you know, Miles could have grown a little bit there. But anyway, accessories, he comes with thwip hands. So you can see a little bit of red on the inside. He does have 2 thwip hands, so no wall crawling or open hands, unfortunately, but we do get 2 thwips. At least, and then we have the unmasked head sculpt. So we're going to go ahead and pop that off. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm super scared with as thin as these figures are to pop it off. So I'm going to try and do the easy way and just push it all the way back and then pop it off that way. That was actually very easy to get it off there. That ball peg is super small compared to what we normally see though. So that's just, you know, a heads up on that. It doesn't pop on. You just kind of have to force it on there. But man, look at that. That really looks like Miles Morales. His eyes are a little big, and he kind of looks like he's shocked at whatever he sees. But that is pretty good. Way better than this one that they gave us here. That just didn't look nearly as good. He just looked like a much younger version of Miles Morales. But yeah, that's a huge difference. So let's see if we can swap the heads. And I don't know if this is just mine that does this. I remember before, right? The ball peg would always come off. I mean, I could probably remove it out of there. But I don't... I'll have to, like... really... I'd have to, like, really try... I don't know if that was an issue with mine. As far as I know, everyone's kind of did that. But I'll try a little bit later if I can get the ball peg out to see if this head sculpt will go onto this body. Because it'd be nice to see, you know, one that looks a little bit more movie accurate. But yeah, there we go. This Miles. So let's go ahead and see how his articulation is. And we'll see, you know, it being super thin, how much that may or may not affect the figure. Okay, so we're going to get into the articulation. I can't get that ball peg out of the head without possibly damaging the peg, so I'm not even going to try. But what I can do is just kind of rest the head on there. It sits really low on the neck, but I think that is something that would look really good because it is a huge improvement on the head sculpt, and I think that could work out. So just a heads up on that. I tried, I couldn't get the ball peg out, and I don't want to potentially damage this figure, as I don't think I could get it anymore, and I don't know what it's going for or anything like that, so I want to be very careful with that. But anyway, Miles Morales, he can look all the way up, like all the way. Like really good all the way up. He can look all the way down as well, so that is really good. A little tiny bit of pivot going on in there, not a huge amount, but there is some, and then you can do a full rotation, of course. To me, now that I look at it, it does sit high on the neck, but again, it's going to be stylized, so does it make sense? I don't know. We'll have to really see in the movie, I guess. So the arm can go straight on out. You get a full rotation in there. This guy is all pinless, so you can see double jointed elbow that is pinless, so you get that much bend there at the elbow. Wrist is a wrist swivel, as you can see there. So the fists have the standard horizontal hinge, and then of course the thwip hands have the same horizontal hinge on there. To swap out the hands, you just pull them. These wrist pegs are a little bit shorter, so just keep that in mind. But then you can boom, bam, you get the thwip hand on there. This guy does have an ab crunch, so if anyone would have seen online, there is one super ugly thing about the ab crunch to be aware of. When you crunch it back, though, you can see that the spider legs, the paint actually continues on, so that is actually pretty cool. But crunching forward, he could go that much, but looking at the back, it just kind of goes flat and kind of has a point, so that is really ugly. The good news is, if you're crunching forward, you're not going to see it, but when you look at the back, it's like, oh, big ass hump Quasimodo kind of going on there, so that kind of sucks. And then the paint of the spider does stop there, and then goes back a crazy amount as well, and then you don't really want to do that, because then that kind of becomes an ugly joint as well. And I think the issue there is the figure is just so thin, but there's not enough curve, like right at the chest. There should have been more of a curve to kind of accommodate, when you're crunching it forward. But then also keep in mind, I'm not a toy engineer. For all I know, I could just be talking out of my ass, and there's just no actual way of getting it done. Waist swivel, as you can see there, it's very clicky. So it clicks, ratchets at point. It's not like a smooth swivel, so just a heads up on that. But it does look ugly when you break it up, because it's so thin at the waist. Just looks a little bit weird there. Is there a drop down? There's no drop down, but the legs go out that far apart, which is good. He can kick forward super duper high. Leg goes back actually quite a bit there. He does have an upper thigh cut in there on the super thin ass legs. Double jointed pinless knee. They are very thin. It does not really feel gummy. You kind of have to move it around a little bit, so it's actually not too bad. If anything, the lower leg is pretty gummy around the ankle, so just a heads up on that. There's no kind of swivel or anything for this guy. So hinging the foot, you can see I'm starting to bend that leg in, so that's where it's gummy, just at this lower part of the leg. And as you can see, it really wants to bend instead of like hinging the foot. That, and I'm also all the way down. Whoops. So foot hinges all the way down, but look, I'm trying to hinge up, and all I want to do is just bend that leg. That's not a good sign. Like, you can hinge it without moving the leg, but then you got to like have two hands involved with that. But foot hinges up quite a bit. Ankle pivot, pegals at the bottom of the feet. So that's where the thinness really affects. That's where you could really notice it, is just at the lower legs. But he really doesn't have an issue standing up, so that is pretty good. So there is Miles's articulation. Okay, and there are our Into the Spider-Verse, or just Spider-Verse franchise Miles Morales figures, the Target exclusive 2-pack, this new one, and then of course the one that was, what was the Build-A-Figure? Stiltman was the Build-A-Figure there. So now let's go ahead and see Miles next to some other characters from Into the Spider-Verse. Of course, we had two different Spider-Gwen figures that came out. It was one in the Target exclusive 2-pack, and then the much better one that came in that Stiltman Build-A-Figure wave. So yeah, but we do get another new Gwen Stacy this time around, which will stylize-wise will match this version of Miles Morales. And of course, a couple of different Spider-Mans from the multiverse. We have Peter B. Parker, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Man Noir. And of course, Uncle Aaron Prowler, as you could see there. Of course, he's obviously not going to be in the next movie. Oh, unless there's a different universe version of Prowler. I guess they could do that. Maybe. We shall see. But that's it for the size comparisons. Okay, so kind of my thoughts on the Miles Morales figure. It's going to grow on me once the movie comes out, but it's hard to get used to the super stylized look of an action figure in the Marvel Legends line, because we don't we really don't get that. And now that we have this, you know, it's better because it becomes more screen accurate to actually how they look in the movie. But then the sacrifice is that it's super thin. It's not super flimsy, but those lower legs are definitely a problem, I would say. And at certain times when you try to pose him around, it can be difficult to get him to stand. But then we get something great like this Miles Morales head sculpt that just is fantastic. But the texture detail looks really good. It'll, you know, once you have all the Spider-Verse figures together, I think they'll look really nice as well. Again, it's just getting over the stylized look. But you guys let me know down in the comments below. What do you think of this Miles Morales figure? Are you excited for the movie? I believe it comes out in June. The Into the Spider-Verse was arguably the best Spider-Man movie of all time. So, you know, big hopes for the sequel to see how it'll come out. And I'm excited to see Spider-Man 2099. So yeah, but you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that join button to become a channel member and be a part of the MCU Collective. And as always, thank you for watching.